Thanks for your patience, everybody. Many familiar faces in the audience today and some new faces as well. Pleasure to meet you all. My name is Justin Landry. I'm an HR consultant and recruiter that's been working with David and his clients for about the last 5 years or so, focused in the high-end construction residential industry. And one thing that I've identified is that when we get the right people in your organizations into the right seats, this empowers you to buy back your time and do the things that you love to do in your business more so than the things you have to do. So the intent of today's presentation is to talk both about your existing team and acquiring new members of your team, and doing this in a scientific and qualitative way. The term that I'll bring up often through this presentation is qualitative methodology. Qualitative methodology, back from my days at Cornell, was taught to me by Beth Livingston, who's basically built a points-based hurdle system. The intention is that as someone grows in your company or grows towards a position in your company, the level of difficulty to which you'll apply to them should increase. So let's talk a little bit about some of the concepts that help us get there. First and foremost, let's talk about a recruitment funnel. If we want to recruit people into your organization, first we need to attract and review them by looking at what does the company need strategically and organizationally to continue to grow. Think about, in the exercise you've just completed, what are the activities that I don't want to do anymore, or that I would rather buy back to one of my employees? What are the skills and competencies required for someone to execute that activity? Now we can build the appropriate positions and the appropriate advertisements to attract those positions. Beyond that, we now need to find a way to create some data. What is the data required so I can qualify and quantify the requirements personality-wise, skills-wise, and culture-wise for that individual to fit in that position? That's how we're going to move into step 2 here, and we're going to assess and identify. There's a variety of assessment tools that later in the presentation we'll discuss that will help you identify the competencies, whether they be motivation competencies, personality, or cultural competencies. By knowing this in a data-centric sort of way, we can now create points-based totals. A project manager needs to have this much organization, this much sociability, and needs to fit my company culture to this degree. Now you can know mathematically, is someone fitting the position? Are they ready for promotion, demotion, or removal? By doing it in a scientific sort of way, you reduce your conflict when dealing with your team. One of the things that I found most resoundingly working in the construction industry is that employers will put up with the emotional pain and financial pain of having a bad employee because they don't want to confront the situation and they don't want the conflict with that individual. By doing it in a mathematical and scientific sort of way, reduces the weight on your shoulders to come in and say, look, the points are what the points are, I love you, but if you don't do this thing, I can't give you the raise, you can't get the bonus. And now it becomes a maybe more even, balanced conversation to have with your team members. The next step in the process when we're hiring is now we've got all of this great data. You do fit or you don't fit the position. You are ready or you aren't ready for the promotion. We now need to sit down with our team member or the prospective hire and interview them. And as a recruiter, I can tell you this is the most essential part. Many times when you're hiring, you might be desperate. You might need somebody pretty quickly to perform this task and this job. The interview process really is your last gateway to identify, is this person part of my team, or is this someone who will just execute this task? By looking at this from a methodological sort of way, you can better identify, am I hiring someone for right now, which is totally okay, we all have done it and probably will need to do it in the future, or am I hiring someone who's a legacy employee? And by knowing that, you can kind of better strategize your goals moving forward as well. By having this system put together, we now get to the fun part. We sign deals, we hire people, we let the legal competencies take care of themselves, and we build our team. As our team continues to build and grow, we empower ourselves to buy back our time and do more of the fun stuff that we love to do. As David mentioned, I live in Hawaii. Anybody who loves golf, come visit me sometime. So let's talk a little bit, well, where are we going to find this talent? We're going to find it a variety of places. Right now, everyone I'm sure has used Indeed or ZipRecruiter, Monster before to attract talent. What I've come to find with those tools is they're a great place to find a large volume of talent, but it's often very hard to find high quality talent. through those resources. You might sift through 20, 40, 100 resumes. Last year in my recruiting business, I had to sift through about 200 resumes per hire that I made. And I made about 250 hires last year. So you can imagine the thousands and thousands of resumes me and my team had to go through to find those diamonds in the rough. It's an exhausting process. In addition to that, we can look on local job boards or social media. With marketing, if you have a great marketing department, your brand will do much of the work for you. Many places where I advertise for ads, I'll call the applicant and say, hey, you know, ABC Construction is looking for a new project manager. I saw you had applied, and they go, oh, you're from ABC? Oh, okay, hi, how's it going? And you'll hear the demeanor just change, night and day. So by sharing your brand and sharing your marketing online, a lot of contractors say, man, social media, that doesn't make any difference. In this day and age, it makes a humongous difference in your brand and making sure that individuals who are interviewing you through the hiring process can see what you offer as well.
Justin, could you elaborate just a little bit more on that?
Absolutely.
I mean, social media such as Facebook or LinkedIn, as I certainly go there looking to see if I can find the candidate and get a sense of personality, any other data other than what the resume shows. What type of social media from an advertising or communicating our business, what platforms are you referring to?
Well, you brought up pretty much the biggest name in the game right now, which is LinkedIn.
Instagram,
Facebook, all of the like are very powerful in getting your brand and your culture out there and getting it noticed. If you work with a marketing person, that's an amazing tool. If you don't, just make sure that you have some sort of SEO, search engine optimization, that links all of your efforts. The major providers like Indeed, Monster, they all look at your SEO ranking of your website. So the better you rank on those SEOs from your social media, the more your web page will do better. And when you post an ad on Indeed, it becomes easier. But LinkedIn has increasingly become the name in the game, and even replacing Indeed in many places, in many markets, for young talent. If you're looking for established talent, I find Indeed is still a great place to go, with the caveat you do have to sift through a large number of resumes to find the talent you're looking for. But if you're looking to inject new, vibrant talent, yeah, LinkedIn is absolutely an amazing tool. There are some AI tools. There's a company that I've been working with, Covey, C-O-V-E-Y, that you can say, I'm looking for a project manager. They need to do these sorts of things. They need to live in this region and be willing to accept this kind of salary. And then Covey goes out and goes, hi, I'm Covey. I saw you're on LinkedIn and you're looking for this kind of position. ABC Construction would love to have you. Are you interested? It's expensive, but it's an extremely effective way of kind of doing more with less. And for me, the last 2 years have been, how do we optimize our business? And how do we optimize our business so that we can do the things that we love to do? I love human resources, but not nearly as much as I love Mario Kart with my son or snorkeling at the beach. How do I get to do all of those things and live my fulfilling life? So for all of you in the audience, that's my goal in human resources, is how do I get you to do your Mario Kart and snorkeling too? And the way that I find that we can do this is by looking at those things and getting that traction moving. And where we can't find that traction, find a trusted advisor. Whether it's a human resources professional like myself, who's more of a consultant, who will come in and give you the best tips and tricks on how to perform, or a more traditional headhunter that will bring you a body of resumes and say, let's move through these bodies of resumes. The acceleration that a professional will give to you is where their worth comes in. You could find that it will take you, and I hear this story lamented to me many times with my clients. I tried for 6 to 8 months to find a project manager. What are you going to do differently? And sometimes I have to say, I can't tell you, I don't want the red laser pointers on my chest. But in other places, I will go through the methodological tools that we need to do to attract that talent.
What kind of cost should they expect?
So when you looking with a headhunter, headhunters, the 25 to 35% of the first year's annual salary is the general expectation in the industry. Most of them do come with a clause where you'll have a 30, 60, or 90-day guarantee. Most of the big names in the game now do ask for 30% of annual salary, but we'll give you a 90-day guarantee on the hires that they make. With a professional recruiter like myself, you're looking at more of like a subscription fee. My fee is $2,000 a month, month by month. When you're happy, you turn it on. When you're unhappy, you turn it off. And we just kind of run as necessary. So there's more than one model. After the presentation today, if anyone would like to talk about an individual case use or advisement I could give on how you could use HR tools, mine or Headhunter's tools, I'd be honored to meet with any of you and kind of discuss that after the fact.
All meetings at your place?
Sure, yeah. They also come with 2 free Mai Tais, so bring a friend if you'd like. I think a lot of people also discount the fact that you've got an amazing amount of trade resources. Think about your suppliers. Think about the number of other businesses that come through your suppliers. Word of mouth in our industry is still extremely powerful. In my interrelativities and working with David, NAHB, NARI, and the other professional development groups are an amazing place to kind of share ideas and share talent. And by being kind of open and creative in those elements, you might find professionals that are ideal for you. In several situations, I've gone to people in a Builder 20 group and said, ask the other partners in your Builder 20. Hey, I'm having a hard time to find a project manager right now. Do you know anything? And one guy will help another guy out. One team member will find another team member. So the trade resources element here, I think, is a humongous bit that many contractors often miss. And then lastly, ask your team. Say, hey guys, if I could give you $1,000 if after 90 days you help me find a good hire, wouldn't you be interested? Can't you find someone else that knows the business like you know and is as reliable as you are? You'd find that not only will it inspire your team and you'll get like a kind of fun competitiveness going on in the office, but many times you find talent that already understands your culture and can matriculate into your organization more rapidly. So I don't think any one of these sources is the catch-all, cure-all, but by using all of them, and by, in my personal opinion, having a professional as your conductor of your orchestra, or Brian, I heard you said you were looking at hiring a human resources professional. Having someone on staff allows you to orchestrate all of these activities and buy back your time. So we are having those Mai Tais on the beach, and we can still get that good talent that we're looking for.
What does your height of your pyramids, your columns, what does that indicate? How much they cost or effectiveness? Because they're different heights.
Well, part of it is just variegation for aesthetic pleasure. The other part of it was, yes, to highlight kind of the need to have someone who's a dedicated HR professional, whether it's on staff or outside of staff. Having someone manage these tasks for you, because I hear so many times, well, I'll just do HR on the side, or I'll have my office manager do HR on the side. And from experience, it takes 30 to 40 hours a week to get the talent that you're looking for. So to find someone adjunct to the organization or to add someone in your organization is the best practice. Why number 3 is the highest. The rest is just aesthetics. Let's progress here. So what's a perfect fit hire? We talk about 2 different ways that we motivate and that we attract talent within the organization. If the clicker will cooperate. We can hire people in 2 different ways. We can hire for potential, or we can hire for performance. I often talk about, I'm a Lord of the Rings fan, I talk about hiring a Gandalf or hiring a Frodo. And what we're talking about here when we hire someone for potential is they're extremely qualified. This is someone who's got, storied experience in the industry and they can hit the ground running. They're also going to ask for a higher salary from day one. And I'm sure we've all heard recently in the industry, wow, salaries are getting much higher. It's really expensive to hire, a professional. When you hire for potential, that person expects that high salary, that great package, the truck, all of those things at once. When you hire for potential, it's essential. This person not only meets your needs, but exceeds them. They are the people who help you buy back your time from day one. I just hired a project manager in rural Virginia, and they asked for $110,000. We went, wow, that's a lot of money, particularly based on the community that you're in. What are you going to provide for that $100,000? And we broke down not just the organizational chart, but accountability charts, where the owner could go, wow, this person's going to buy back 15 hours of my week. I'm willing to invest in this individual because they have the performance that I need from day one. The potential is there. Inversely, when we hire for performance, we're hiring a younger, more junior talent, the Frodo, as I like to call it. They're willing to go on the journey with you and willing to accept a lower salary from onset. These are the types of individual that they might not have all of the skills that you're looking for. One of the things I heard quite often in the kind of previous conversation is, it's very hard for me to let go of these particular tasks. And I think about teaching my now 13-year-old son how to ride a bike. And from day one, I could ride a bike better than he could. But if I had just said, hey, well, I can ride the bike better, get out of the way, he would have never learned to ride the bike. He needed to fall down on the bike a couple times. He needed to skin his knees. You will put people out on projects, and pardon my language, they will do a shittier job than you. And that needs to be okay, and you need to be able to go in and train them to do that right job. That's these people who are hiring for performance. And you're going to teach them the performance, and in so doing, you're going to inspire them and go, wow, Perry or Gary, Sarah was the person who taught me the right way to do things, and now I'm endeared to them. That endearment goes a long way when we talk about intrinsic and extrinsic motivating factors. So all of this comes to the fact we need to find a psychometric assessment to help us identify, have I found a potential or a performance hire? What psychometric assessments are skills and personality assessments that have that qualitative methodology basis to them. What does that mean? That means that a research institute, the research institute that I use is from Bowling Green State University in Ohio, has verified this assessment, has done hundreds of thousands of data sets of this assessment, and can say verifiably, this data set fits this position or this position. So when I'm hiring for my clients for a project manager, we will pull up a metric and say, here are the organizational metrics, here are the personality metrics, here are the behavioral metrics a successful project manager will bring. And now many of my clients, many that are David's clients as well, say to me, Justin, we're not working together, but I'm going to hire this guy. I need an assessment. I need to know what to expect from this individual. By having that assessment done, you can now, in a more capable sort of way, say, I know what to expect from this person on day one, and build a roadmap on how they're going to buy back your time. So why do I want to use an assessment? We want to use assessments because they help us identify the right skills, talents, and abilities within individuals. First, what we need to do is, and what I strongly encourage that you do, is assess your team. I often say to my clients that an assessment is a magnifying glass, not a guillotine. I need to know what your superpowers are so I can make sure I'm putting you in the right space. And now that I know that my team is all in the right seats, what energies, behaviors, and skill sets is my organization missing? From there, I can then go in and I can look through and I can measure. I can measure on the existing team and put together that org chart. I can say, here's the missing gaps, and I can acquire the talent that I need. The data helps you look not just for your current needs in that 6-month dream chart, which we can make the impossible real by building this, but further than that, it lets you look at the 12-month, 24-month, and beyond. In human resources, we actually look at usually like a 1 to 2 year plan, a 2 to 4 year plan, and then a 5+ year plan. And how do we build those succession strategies accordingly? And then last but not least, this type of tool promotes your DEI, your diversity and inclusion, by being fair and balanced and by being scientifically based. We're taking the gut out of it and we're moving it more into the brain and the heart. We can then have our team have roles that they love to do, salaries that they enjoy earning, and they get the same satisfaction from the businesses that we do. I think all of us are in business and in the businesses we chose because we love them. And if we can identify what we love about them, we can share that vision and that value with our team. Brian?
The psychometry,
Yeah.
would that be similar to the DISC or Myers-Briggs or some of those derivations?
So those are the behavioral element of a psychometric assessment. Psychometric assessments usually have 2 quotients to them, a logic quotient and a behavior quotient.
Okay.
So you could do a logic assessment adjunct to a Myers-Briggs, DISC, or Enneagram, and then factor the 2 together. Quality HR professional has the tools and metrics to measure those 2. There are some bigger names in the game. The biggest name in the game is predictive index. Criteria or preview are 3 of the biggest names in the game as far as psychometry. There's a newcomer in the game as well called Kolbe, Kolbe. That's powered by Arizona State University. But yes, the psychometry is truly a behavioral assessment and a logic assessment pulled together. So that's why we would want to assess. But what's the assessment going to help us identify? How's it going to make sure that we get the right people, those bullseyes as I like to call them, on our team? We're going to measure with a psychometric assessment and make sure they have the right job skills. Do they have the occupational capacity to do the job you're asking them to do? We're going to say, do they have the technical ability? One thing we know in construction is that spreadsheets, communication logs, and digital technology are not some of our staff's favorite tools. How do we identify, does this person have the quotient and the ability to learn those tools and perhaps thrive with them? A psychometric assessment will help you figure that out. Situational judgment. There are so many times where you'll get a call and think, well, geez, there's someone on site who could answer this question. Or maybe if you're a production manager, maybe you need to answer that question. And by looking at logic data, we can certifiably say you have the ability, and it can kind of push people in the right direction to take charge in those situations. Communication skills. I mean, we all find, particularly when I'm doing KPI planning with my clients, I hear it time and time again from business owners, Jim's such a great carpenter. I love what he does out there. He's great with the clients, but I never can hear back what he's doing until 2-3 days later, a week later. I have to call him and ask him what's going on the job site, or I'll never know what's going on. And I find so many times I'm building KPIs in performance management about communication. If you have a psychometric assessment, it talks about their communication skills, and you can know you're going to have that present, capable communicator on your team. We talk about psychometric data, again, being that balance between that sweet spot of logic and personality. I talk about the heart-brain connection. There's a lot of heart-brain science out there. David asked me to take out all my geeky heart-brain science slides, so I won't bore you guys tonight. But that's what I'm really talking about here when I get into the psychometric data and the cognitive ability, is when we pull all of it away, because a lot of it is, particularly for the applicants that we're trying to hire, it's detail. When we pull all of the detail away, do you have the heart and passion that we do? And if you do, then we can teach them the rest.
Can I ask one question? Like personal values, when you're starting to heart, are we talking about the company values, cultural fit?
Yeah, the concept in human resources that all of this boils down to is shared values. And when you hire a team that has shared values as you can trust fall with them. I'm in Denver, Colorado right now, and I know my team is performing in Hawaii right now. Why? Because I trust them implicitly. I think of them as my brothers and my sisters. And because of that, I know that they trust me implicitly to be in Denver and to share what's valuable about HR to my brothers and sisters here right now. And when you build the right team, that's how it feels. And that's what a human resources professional should do for you, is help you build that team that you can trust fall with, that you're on the boat, you're having Mai Tais in Hawaii with Justin, and that you can know certifiably, yes, they see what I see, they think what I think, and what I need to get done this week will get done. That's when we know we've got the right team. Now, a lot of professionals, particularly from the US Department of Labor, are starting to talk about assessments as becoming a commonplace part in not just the hiring process, but in our regular performance management processes within our organization. The data from the US Department of Labor says that, survey says, 82% of businesses in the United States of America are now using some form of assessment to qualify their team and to hire people within their organization. 58% of organizations surveyed through the US Department of Labor said that the soft skills, the cultural skills, the personality skills, and those skills that are much harder to measure are essential to them and to their businesses. There's actually data from Indeed that says after salary, 98% of people said company culture is the #2 thing they look for. So you might be able to win in the short run in the money game, but culture is what keeps people in your organizations. And if you feel like you have a revolving door right now, don't look at money, look at culture. And let's think about what in our culture is keeping this revolving door running, and what can we do to close that revolving door by moving it from a less gut-centric into a more heart-centric human resources policy. 48% of people said when they were assessed and they could be regarded more as their whole human being, they felt more interested in the organization and more likely to retain in the organization, and 87% reduced turnover in those organizations. We came to find out when you give people things they love to do, they like it. When you give things that they hate to do, they don't like it. So this is an assessment. On this assessment, you can see how someone is motivated, what the interests they have are. So not just what they're good at, but what they want to do. We can see their personality traits. And you can see from these green bars throughout the assessment, these are the averages for this carpenter position. The benefit of this type of assessment is each one of your organizations can create your own averages. So you have your team take a benchmarking assessment, and you can identify the strengths and weaknesses in your company, and you can create your own green bar averages. Not only does this assessment talk about personality and skills, but some of my favorite things, and some of the things, Brian, that makes a psychometric assessment are these bottom 4 quotients right here. The balance between being emotional and stable. The balance between being restless and poised, excitable and relaxed. And this last one here, geez, that's just my favorite. The balance between frankness and social desirability. When social desirability scores an 8 or higher, this person's blowing smoke at you. And when they score a 3 or lower on the frankness scale, my goodness, that's the bad construction stereotype. So we can see very quickly with these metrics, do we have the kind of person that we're looking for occupationally, interpersonally, and culturally? The intention of this type of thing is to give you a quick and easy way with a suitability score to say, is this the right fit for my organization or not? If someone isn't around the 75% or higher, I don't recommend to my clients that they would hire them. If they get into the 85% or higher, I say, wow, you found yourself a rock star.
And that's based on your current staff.
Yes. In this case, this client of mine, we went through about a 2-week process where we identified what does a good carpenter in their organization look like. And they handed me 5 carpenters they said were their rock star carpenters. I had them each go through that benchmark and complete that benchmarking assessment. And then as we attracted new carpenters into the organization, we knew the traits they had already identified as the quality traits for their organization. So the owner could trust the edifice of this document more completely because they knew it was based on their team.
But if you only have one person in every position, you're only got one person that you're judging that against for that position, because they had 5 lead carpenters. We might have 1 project manager,
right,
one office manager. So, and the position that I'm hiring for, there is nobody there,
right,
to assess. How do you score?
So I work with a data and research team at my software company, and we have pre-definitions for almost every position out there, whether it's a general manager or residential construction project manager. I heard estimator quite often. Estimators are my jam, so anytime you want to talk about hiring an estimator, let me know. I've got a great definition for that. So the software company that I work with, we put together at least 2,000 data sets. 2,000 people in the working world we've assessed, and then averaged those scores together. But the intention is that there's more than one way to use this tool. David?
Yeah, and can we also benchmark Steve?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, the point is, you've done this for how many years, Stephen?
Too many. 34?
Yeah. And so really, I could begin to benchmark you as a potential comparison against a potential person growing into your role. Is that a fair description?
Absolutely. That's an endeavor that we've done several times within my firm as well, where we benchmark the owner. And
within many of us are either NARI members or HBA members. I meet with 6 companies each month, contractors, and we could certainly pass it around and have them, everybody submit one, and then see what the profile kind of comes up. Right.
I have a Builder 20 in Florida, and one of the owners brought this to their Builder 20 group, and now they're all doing benchmarkings as well. The idea behind this is you'll feel more traction because you'll have a data set to rely upon. Rather than, you've got 18 things you've got to do every single day, and now the hiring comes in, and we've been taught so long, if they can do the task, let's trust our gut. Are they a good person or not? We can often, second guess ourselves, or we get caught up in the rush. This gives you that ability to really scientifically say, I've done my homework, this is the type of person I'm looking for, do you fit that role or not?
When they're on the cusp like that, right at that 74, do we assume we can coach them up into that, or is once they're there, they're always going to be there?
Well, these are snapshots in time, and assessments are absolutely not the Rosetta Stone. The assessments are really, for me, they give me the definition so that I can have a powerful interview. As a human resources professional, the most impactful part of the HR funnel for me is really the interview process.
And we were talking briefly last night about personality being personae is the mask
Yes.
that you wear. And if they can blow smoke on the social desirability piece, can't they blow smoke on the rest of it?
Well, that's what that quotient tells us, is how much smoke they blew through the completion of this journey. And if that score was an 8 or higher, I would have meaningful concerns unless they were in a sales role or a politician.
This individual appears to be on the personality scale, they're in the middle or higher, but that 1-3 with working with people, where they're way short of that, does that set off an alarm?
Well, what that does is that gives me an amazing opportunity to ask a probing question. So this individual, the first question I would ask him is, when you're out on a job site, what pisses you off the most with your coworkers? When you've dealt with bosses in the past, what's the most desirable situation you've had with a boss, and what's the crappiest situation you've had with a boss? And I use this type of language on purpose because it demystifies the situation. That's what that low people score tells me. For example, looking at this, seeing that this person is group-oriented and organized, I would say after a production manager meeting, how do you share data with your team? What's the best way for you to get the rest of your project management team out and running? Give it to me in 3 bullet points or in 3 to 5 sentences. Then I listen to them and I go, okay, does that fit what I want them to do? And does it not fit what I want them to do? So what I would encourage someone who's using a tool like this to do is to have a little scoring didactic and say, if someone has the right personality, that matters to me 20% of the time. Their skills matter to me 100% of the time. And we can, that's why I think a human resources professional is so essential in these roles, is that they can come in and help you identify what metrics matter to you and help you come up with the right interview questions so that you can really get to the heart of the matter with these individuals. So that's how I recommend that we use these type of assessments. And yeah, we can dive in from there. David.
So do you help people prepare those interview questions?
Absolutely, yes. This particular assessment tool does help us come up with psychometrically based interview questions. So with the completion of each one of these assessments, you do get what's called a TPD, which is a total person description, which is like 3 or 4 nice paragraphs about who they are, their strengths and weaknesses, the things that excite them and the things that maybe would upset or that they would fear. And then you also get about 2 pages worth of interview questions. My clients who use this assessment love it because not only do they understand who the person is, but they know how to interface with them in that interview process to kind of create comfortability on both sides and really get into the heart of the matter. I once had an interview living in Vancouver, Canada, where I talked to the owner of this business for 2 hours, and we didn't talk about the position once. He started by telling me about his family and his kids' birthday plans. He asked me about my family and my family's plans. And by the end, me being me, I had to ask him, and I'm like, sir, we haven't talked about the position once. Is that on purpose? And he goes, yeah. I just wanted to know if you're my people or not. And now that I know you are, the rest we can figure it out later. I'd like to offer you a job. Culture matters more than we think. You can teach someone how to frame a house. You can teach someone how to tile the floor. But you can't teach them to care the way you care about your clients. You can't teach them the understanding of that when things go badly, how to calm the situation down rather than escalate the situation. And that's one thing in the production world we hear about readily, is that emotional intelligence quotient. Having a tool like this helps you identify before you make that hire, which a wrong hire can cost you 50 to 60 grand in this market right now. That's to me where an assessment is powerful, is it gives you that interview basis and it gives you that ability to make sure you don't make the wrong hire culturally.
And is this the preview?
This is the preview assessment, yeah, the one that we discussed previously.
This kind of reminds me, like the balance sheet is one thing we don't use as often. P&L, you're always looking at, and the behavior and motivation element. I have a beautiful skills matrix where we talk about all the trade activities, but the soft stuff. we do a personality profile, but I mostly just, like the Myers-Briggs, tried to say, we process information differently, we're motivated differently, and having a diverse team is a good thing. But I haven't really honed my questions when interviewing somebody to really elicit their value, their sense of who they are and how they make decisions. So a big gap.
Well, one of the big places where the rubber meets the road with this conversation that we're having is the conversation about compensation. And that we look at compensations rising in the market right now. And I'm sure many of you are thinking, how do I compete financially? How do I compete? And we talk about two types of kind of compensation: intrinsic and extrinsic compensation. Extrinsic compensation is salary. It's bonuses. It's the money that this person's going to get because they work with you. And what research, again, this is all from ILHR at Cornell, says is that after 12 months, the money doesn't matter to them anymore. The raise that they got is no longer perceptible to them. So if we continue to just go on extrinsic, well, if you do this thing, you get a bonus, and at the end of the year, you're going to get a raise, at a certain point of time, they're going to lose the shared value and connection with you. And you might lose key players because they find a better cultural fit. I can see some of my clients, perhaps in the far back of the room, that are really great at talking about culture and really building that edifice. And I think that's the thing that I would see for all of you, is to talk to each of your existing team members about what matters to them culturally. Why did you pick to work with me? What about working with me is the right fit? And the more you can quantify the average of that across your company, you can begin to see what your team sees in you. And because of that, then you buy back your time. Because now you find the people you can trust. We're back to the Mai Tais. All of this boils down for me to a competency-based approach. People are best at the things that they love to do. If we get people into positions where they're doing the things that they love to do, not only are they going to do a better job of it, but they're going to care more about the end result, and they're going to be willing to take more on mentally, spiritually, and emotionally in the position. So what does this mean? This means we need to identify what are the key competencies. What makes success in a project manager in your company? What makes a great carpenter? That's where doing these kind of benchmark assessments help you identify, what does my team think matters? And by knowing what your team thinks matters, you can attract new talent that has those same competencies and abilities. From there, we would move into how do we document this and how do we communicate it to people? In the hustle bustle of the construction world, a lot of this kind of gets lost in translation. It's like, hey, show up here and let's do a good job, and yeah, you're awesome. And putting it down on paper sometimes seems like it's a bit of a ridiculous effort. But when your team member can actually see, hey, you've been doing these things and I love it, and here's the things I see for you in your future, they can become engendered in your shared vision more often. With all of my recruiting clients, I build a thing called an IDP, or an individual development plan for each member of their organization. And this is not just right now, but into the future, 2, 3, 5 years from now. I care where you want to go. And it's not my responsibility to just carry you there, but let's walk together to that destination. What can I do to help you get there, and what can you do to help me along the way as well? And by looking at this as a team, as the brothers and sisters in your organization, you'll find that they adhere to the culture that you're trying to build more resolutely, and they're going to be willing to follow it. This system is fact-based. We're saying you've achieved these activities. You've learned this communication to this level of compliance. It reduces the conflict within your organization. When someone comes in and says, well, I think I'm ready for that promotion, boss. You go, well, you've been doing a great job. I really appreciate the work you're doing. Here are the metrics that we need to work on together. How do I help you get there? Maybe there's a communications class. Maybe you chip in some of the money so they can take a communications class. I've had previous employers that I've worked with who literally said, I will pay for all of your professional development educationally while you're part of my team. I've had people who went and did sales training. These sorts of things from an extrinsic motivation are a small cost, but intrinsically to your team member, they matter a lot. And they're going to say, you were there for me. You helped me get better. So now I want to be there for you too. We then talk about enhancing collaboration and connectivity within your organization. And this reduces redundancy. Redundancy, what I see, is one of the biggest things I see in organizations where a business owner clones themselves. And the more and more you clone yourself, the more and more you create this place where inefficiency continues to occur, because people are doing the same activities on top of each other. If you have an organization where you've got one person who's a carpenter and one person's a project manager, we need to be lean and mean, and we need to make sure our divide and conquer methodology is strong. Having a competency-based approach and saying, hey, the facts are, I need you to do these tasks, and I need you to do these tasks, and here's how they matriculate into your growth plan, inspires individuals to want to stay in their lane, if you will, and be able to execute to their highest capacity. All of this boils together into performance and evaluation. By raise of hands, how many people do some sort of annual performance evaluation of their organizations? How much of that is gut-based, and how much of that is data-based?
95% gut.
So a competency-based approach builds the organizational structure, just like what we do with David's work on the organizational side, on your team. And says, here's the things you need to do in the next 6 to 12 months to get to the place that I'd like you to be at. But we then ask them as well, where are you trying to go in the next 6 to 12 months? And how do I help engender that? And you'll find their connectivity towards getting where you're trying to get them to go accelerates exponentially.
Do you have assessments that tell how much growth they've made?
Yes. Outside of my recruitment efforts as well, I do a large amount of performance management with my clients. So I have KPI trackers, monthly, quarterly trackers. Many of you are probably familiar with Gino Wickman and the entrepreneurial operating system. I have a whole tool that's designed when you do your weekly check-ins, your level 10 meetings, it runs adjunct to that. So please come see me after the presentation. I'd love to kind of give you case use examples of how we can build a performance evaluation system for your organization as well. When we're in the world of hiring, however, one of the things is we gotta interview people. And many times what I found with contractors is that when we're interviewing individuals, can you do the job? Do you know so-and-so? Did you do this? Have you ever faced this before? Okay, they can solve the problems that are in front of us for the next project or two. They sound like they might be a good fit. Let's proceed. What the key to success is to format your interview before you have it. Sometimes having a free-form interview is the right thing to do. That 2-hour example, I'm pretty sure that gentleman did not plan that interview with me. And it has still resounded with me over 10 years later. A structured interview, however, talking about the interview questions that the preview assessment provides, gives you a place to say, here are the things I'm the most worried about in this position. Here are the needs that I have that are the most necessary. And to make sure you spend the appropriate percentage of time in your interview on the things that matter to you the most. Oftentimes interviews will go sideways, or we'll end up talking about some adjunct topic. And by having a structured interview, you can make sure, again, you're managing your time and buying back that performance time through your interview. We're talking about different kinds of questions here. Behavioral-based questions are an HR best practice in interviewing. When this situation happens, how do you act? So we're giving them a situation that you know happens in your organization regularly. And then saying, you know the right response for you and for your team in your mind. Let's hear what theirs is. And let's see, does their response fit what your cultural needs are for your organization? If it does, you know you're going in the right direction, and you should engender more of those questions to make sure they do have the behavioral fit you're after. We also need to ask situational questions that talk about where they're coming from. In the past, when you had to frame a house of this size, what size team did you use? How did you frame the walls? All of the technical details can come in, and you can make sure they do have the competencies. Human resources is not just about putting this fluffy cloud in the sky. It is about the measurements of both culture, performance, and personality. So making sure that they can do the things you want them to do, and deeper than that, that they share your values about the business is so essential. And then lastly, we talk about the prospecting. Many people are talking about, how do I move from the position I'm in into a future position? Or for many of you, how do I move out of the organization? Am I hiring someone that has that vision in mind? Do they have the prospect to do that or are they focused on the task ahead of them right now? The interview, not the assessment, is the best place to find that out. And by using the data from their resume, using the data from the assessment, we can engender that in a more professional and personable sort of way. Any questions?
Justin.
Yeah.
We've worked together, I don't know, 50 times on the phone over the last year. And I've always learned something from our conversations, but I think what's really been earth-shattering to me is using the assessments before I even meet the person. I can cut out 80% or 90% of the people that I otherwise, and Alyssa will tell you, I'm too nice. You'll say the same thing. And I want to help people, but we're not running a counseling business. And just because I like that person doesn't mean that they're a good fit for our team. So this gives me the assessments give me a quantitative thing to say, okay, this is a good guy. I'd love for him to help on a nonprofit basis, but we're running a for-profit business here, and it's not going to be good.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Joseph. You know, I think any good HR funnel or process, the most important thing that it does isn't make you new hires or grow your team. It protects you from making the wrong hires and building the wrong team. You can go online and you can look up this, it's called Markov analysis. But if you do Markov analysis on a position, most of the positions that we're going to be hiring for are somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000 a year. And the Markov analysis on making a bad hire is somewhere between $20,000 and $60,000. So to go through this process in a short period of time to save ourselves $60,000 to $80,000 on making a bad hire almost becomes a no-brainer in a lot of different places. So, yes. David.
Can you just quickly describe the assessment process? So here's Joseph in Tennessee, you're in Hawaii. How does this work?
What we'll do, going back to the first slide, in that funnel stage one of the funnels, we'll discuss the resumes in play. And it's your recruiter's responsibility to attract the appropriate resumes. We'll say, which of these people have the right skills? Which of these individuals look like the good fit for you? Using Joseph as the example, Joseph will say, well, I'm interested in so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so, Billy, Timmy, and Larry. Then my responsibility is to call up Billy, Timmy, and Larry. And I use silly talk. I go, Billy, your resume is amazing. Man, I want to get you an interview with the boss right away. But we need to identify your personality and your skills. Would you be willing to give me 30 minutes of your time to take a personality assessment? If you would, I'd be honored to represent you and put this on the owner's desk right away. They feel regarded and cared for. I just demystify the process and make it sound fun. Once I get that completed assessment back, I hand it over to my client. And I say, hey client, let's talk about this. Here are the things that I would ask. Here's the things that we would look at. The owner might ask me some questions on, okay, well, what about this thing? Or how does this help in that regard? And then we can build that profile, that personality and that interview profile, so you feel empowered and you feel connected to the person that you're engaging with, rather than this kind of distance, putting on airs kind of energy that often happens in the interview process. Saw you were going to ask the question.
And this is just curiosity. Do you see differences across the country on skill set and abilities, to find an A player and say, where Joe is in the interior? I mean, there's certainly good tradesmen there, but a different type of person that I would need in Portland, Oregon. Do you see differences across the country, or is it pretty much an even playing field?
I mean, that level of exceptionalism persists in all of the markets. It's your ability to find that talent in some of those markets, and the compensation strategies and cultural strategies we have to use vary. The strategy that I would use in Tennessee versus Oregon is vastly different. We would have to pursue applicants in an entirely different sort of way. I would communicate with them in a different sort of way. Where with Joseph's clients, there was a large number of applicants coming through on some of those pipelines, and I would speak openly, friendly, and personably from day one. They get like the Hawaii bro experience. If I was talking to a potential general manager, it's going to be a different energy. But do they exist? Yes, they do exist. It is a fairly level playing field as far as is there good talent out there. Now, let's be honest, the hardest position to find right now is lead carpenters. And I do find in middle America, there are more readily available lead carpenters than there are in our coastal environments. But I do relocation campaigns, and there are several ways to solve that issue as well.
Do you also help or take care of putting the listing together on Indeed or Facebook?
Yes. We're going to do a second session after lunch where I'm going to show you not only how we take a position description, we take a position description and we use the power of this new AI tool, ChatGPT, to really do much of the heavy lifting for us and help us script job ads in a quick and capable sort of way. So yes, please stand by for round 2, and we'll dive more in on that. Very excited to share ChatGPT with you. After we talk about interviews, we did it. We're ready to hire somebody. What do we need to keep in mind as we hire this individual? We have to pay a competitive wage. In this market right now, it's an inflationary market. People are asking for a large sum of income. And in many markets, they need it to survive. I was having conversations in the bistro just last evening. Many people are living paycheck to paycheck. Sarah, you had lamented to me that some of your staff, were going through financial hardship and you had no cognizance of it. It's essential to us if we want these individuals to have our shared vision that first and foremost, they are compensated in a way that is holistic. That doesn't just mean that we accept a hostage-taking situation and they say, I want a raise, and we give it to them. But we say, I understand you're having a tough time. You know what? I'll give you $1,000 right now. I'm going to put you into a training program. I want to see how I can help you grow. That would be a really reasonable way to deal with somebody. $1,000 for us probably shouldn't be that much that it really injures us. But it might mean the world to your team member. Not that you've solved their problem, but just that you genuinely care. So the compensation strategy and the benefits package fit the individual. There's a concept in the HR world out there called the EVP, or the Employee Value Proposition. And what this says is you don't hire employees, you hire human beings. And they want to be regarded as human beings. How do you fit the compensation strategy to fit their whole life? I'm an avid snorkeler. I love to snorkel. When I was employed by organizations, I asked for 3 weeks off. And I was willing to take a lower salary because I wanted 3 weeks off so I could travel and I could go find cool new snorkeling spots. Someone else might say, hey, I'm willing to give up some of the benefits and I just want a raw dollar compensation strategy. If you have a very large team, this can become an exhausting effort. But regarding each person individually helps meaningfully. Please.
Do you have strategies and suggestions how to incorporate performance incentives for them?
Yes.
Because what I have found, especially in the last couple of years, is people were paid, but when you pay them more money, doesn't necessarily mean you're getting better performance.
Yes.
And also, then you've got to change your pricing structure to afford those people to still make and that can make you uncompetitive in the marketplace.
Absolutely, yeah. Building a KPI or a performance management system where they have to meet a certain benchmark, where they're exceeding their previous output before the raise comes, before the benefit comes. And then we will continue on a weekly, monthly, and quarterly basis to manage those KPIs to make sure that they're continuing to perform the way that we'd ask them to. So building that type of methodological system, and again, back to qualitative methodology, what it says is the points matter. If you want $90,000 from 70, I need to see your points rating go from a 70 to a 90. And here's the steps I'm willing to engender in you, but team member, you need to do it. You need to climb to the top of Mount Olympus if you want to stand here with me. So yeah, let's talk after the presentation. I can show you some of those systems. David.
Time for lunch. We're getting close.
Awesome.
I just want to bring it to a close.
Well, all of this comes together in making sure you have shared expectations with your team and shared expectations with the hires that you're making, that they know what to expect before they begin with you, and that they're not going to come to you in 6 to 12 months and ask for some sporadic raise. This boils together in saying that we've got shared values and shared culture. And when you have shared values and shared culture, your compensation strategy is not just money. You can come in at a little bit lower of a salary, and they'll say, well, you know what, so-and-so offered me more, but I feel engendered to your company. I feel like we have a shared vision. And that also enhances your retention. About 85% of the time, that will enhance your retention. All of this helps you build the clear growth planning to not just hire talent, but retain it. Any good human resources process is not about hiring. It's about retaining the talent, building new roadmaps so you can buy back your time to do the things that you love. Obviously, there's unique case uses for each one of these. So why do we do all of this? It's so that you can not only acquire talent, but you can manage your talent and you can develop your team. You can come up with a scientifically based performance management system that manages your employees, your compensation and benefits, and your diversity, equity, and inclusion. It makes sure that on all aspects, you're a highly competitive organization. I chose the rocket ship here on purpose because building the right team helps you blast off as well and helps you make your personal goals come true. Last but not least, business owners. You have one job. Your job is to build a winning team and empower them to do the rest. In so doing, you'll inspire a team, you'll educate them with the knowledge that only you have, you'll build teamwork as they begin to inspire each other, they'll grow the business, your business will begin to thrive without you, and you'll see success. To communicate those individual case uses, we'll go to space. To communicate those individual case uses, I'll share my business cards with you after the presentation. My phone number and email are on the screen. If you'd like to discuss anything through lunch or through the rest of the day, I'll be here to share with you. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you for listening.